everyone, it's Stella.
And Tarrant here from Meeple University. Today we'll be teaching you how to play the Incal Infinite, game designed by Guillaume Montiage and Manuel Rozoy, and published by Why Not Animation and Interaction. This game is based on the French graphic novel series, The Incal.
Let's get to the game.
Incal Infinite is a quick-playing cooperative card game in which players will work together to try to unlock the secrets of the mystical Incal. Players will move around the board and use cards to create sets, entitling them to look at the numbers hidden on these Incal chits, attempting to place these cards and use the special abilities at Suicide Alley, gathering the information they need before suffering too much damage or falling victim to the enemy they're facing. If the players can learn enough about the Incal to flip these chits in ascending order, they'll complete the Transfiguration ritual and win the game. The game is played against one of 5 different enemies, and before you set up the game, you'll need to choose which enemy you're going to face. Each will introduce some special rules and special losing conditions. In this video, I'll be teaching you fully using the introductory enemy, the Bergs, leaving you to learn about the others when you move on to subsequent games. In a circle on the table, lay out the Suicide Alley card and then 5 other location cards, returning any leftovers to the box. Take the Incal chits that are numbered from 1 to 7, leaving the 8 and 9 in the box, shuffle them up, place 1 into a notch of each of the 5 locations, and set the other 2 aside unseen. Place the 4 Suicide Alley power chits into their slot, flipped to the grey side face down. Place your ship on that tile. This will normally be in a standee base, but we'll show it from the top in this video. The Bergs piece will be moved between locations, and in setup you'll place it between Suicide Alley and the location to its right. You'll now need to set up the deck of cards and begin by splitting all of the cards into 3 decks. These are the damage cards, the single John Difool card, and the character cards. This includes 6 sets of character cards, that is, each set containing a single character with numbers ranging between 1 and 5. In the 2-player game, you'll remove one of these complete character sets before shuffling. In a 3-player game, you'll shuffle this deck together and then discard 4 cards at random, returning them to the box. The team can look at them to determine which cards are in and out. At 4 players, you'll use the entire deck. Deal 1 character card face up underneath each location except Suicide Alley. Then deal 4 cards to each player. Players may talk about the cards in their hands but may not show them to each other at any time. To the remaining deck, add the John Difool card, and then in your first game, 2 damage cards. Against the normal difficulty Bergs, this will go up to 4. Shuffle the draw deck, set the damage cards aside for future use, choose a first player, and you're now ready to play. Incal Infinite is played in turns, starting from the first player and going clockwise around the table. The central aim of the game is for the team to collectively learn enough information about the 5 Incal chits to successfully complete the Transfiguration ritual, in which one player spends their turn flipping over the 5 chits and aiming to flip them in ascending order. To get to the point of doing this, the team must perform revelations, which they'll achieve by getting combinations of cards down on locations which match the location's conditions. Here, for example, it's 2 different pairs. Whoever completes that condition gets to secretly look at the number on that chit, and is not allowed to share that information with the other players. The trick to the game is tactically working out how to get all of these conditions met, get enough of the information in the same person's hands as possible, and to use the available special powers in order to complete the ritual. On your turn, you must take one of 3 actions: travel, pass, or attempt the ritual. Most of your turns will be spent travelling. To travel, you must first move the ship at least one and as many as 6 spaces clockwise around the board. Moving 6 spaces would mean finishing in the same place you started. If when moving you pass the Berg's current location, advance the Berg's marker 1 step and then take a damage card from the supply and add it to the discard pile. Next, you'll explore the location. If you've gone to a location with an Incal chit, this means that you can play 1 or more cards from your hand which depict the same character into that location. As mentioned before, each location has an objective that you're trying to reach. The cards you play don't necessarily have to make that objective possible, and there are some tactical reasons you might choose to do that. However, a location cannot have more cards than the number of cards required for its objective. In this case, for example, once 5 cards had been placed, no more cards could be placed, and in fact the ship would not be allowed to stop here anymore. If after exploring the conditions are met, then whoever placed the last card may look at the Incal chit secretly. The player is not allowed to share this information with any other players. Cards are not removed from the location after the revelation. The other type of travel turn is one where the ship ends at Suicide Alley. When here, you may discard any number of matching character cards from your hand to resolve that many Suicide Alley abilities. This could involve taking the same action multiple times. So for these 2 cards discarded, I could take 2 different actions or the same action twice. However, at the end of your turn, you will flip over any chits for abilities which were taken at least once, meaning they won't be available for other players going forward. These powerful abilities need to be used carefully and tactically to ensure victory. With the move power, you can move a character card from any one location to any other location, excluding one which is already at capacity. If you now meet its condition, you perform a revelation. The discard action lets you choose a location, choose any 2 cards from that location and move them to the discard pile, and then remove all other cards from that location from the game. The talk power is the only way that players are allowed to share what they've seen on the Incal chits. When you choose the talk power, choose a location and then the player who has looked at that chit may announce to all players what number was on the chit. You're not allowed to check again. You must remember these as you learn them. Finally, with the destroy power, choose any one player, which can include yourself, who may remove a damage card from hand and remove it from the game. This power is the only way to get damage cards out of players' hands, otherwise they're not allowed to be discarded and they simply sit in your hand and choke up valuable spaces. A player having 3 damage cards in hand is also one of the losing conditions for the game. When travelling, you have some added flexibilities when using the John Difool card from your hand. This card counts as a wild, and when you go to play it, you choose which character and which number it represents. The rest of the play follows all normal rules. If the ship were here and I wanted to play 2 cards, including John Difool, they still must both represent the same character, and so in this case I'd have to declare John Difool as a depot card. In this case, I would now have a revelation. However, the same would not be true if I'd travelled to this location. I could still play those same 2 cards, a depot and a John Difool representing a depot, but because he represents depot, these 5 cards are not different, and so I would not get a revelation. John Difool is always discarded from one of these locations at the end of your turn, meaning that if you're not using him to trigger a revelation, there is no point using him. You can use John Difool as wild at Suicide Alley in the usual way. If I discarded these 2 cards, I could declare him a meta baron and use 2 ungrade powers. Alternatively, if you discard John Difool alone at Suicide Alley, then you can take only one power, but it can be a power which is already greyed out. All travel actions end by drawing back up to 4 cards in hand. If the draw deck runs empty, shuffle the discard pile and then continue drawing from the top of the new deck. The second option on your turn is to pass. When you pass, you must discard 1 card from your hand. Again, this is not allowed to be a damage card. You can never discard damage. And then add a damage card to the discard pile and draw back up to 4. You won't want to do this often because you'll be gaining damage for very little reward. But on some occasions, it will be the best thing for the team tactically to do. The third and final option is to attempt the Transfiguration ritual. If you choose to do this, then based on the information that you have and you alone, you must start flipping Incal chits face up. Your aim is to go from lowest number to highest number. If you flip out of sequence, then the ritual fails. While if you flip in sequence, then the ritual succeeds and everyone wins. Completing this ritual is the aim of the game and the only way to win. The team loses immediately if at any point any player has 3 or more damage cards in hand, or if a player cannot redraw to 4 cards because there simply aren't enough cards left in the deck or discard pile, or if the Bergs complete a full lap of the board and end up in their starting position, or if there is an unsuccessful attempt at the Transfiguration ritual. Before we finish, I'll show you the game's locations. We've heavily used these 4 locations. They simply require sets of cards, 2 pairs, a triple and a pair, 2 triples, or 4 matching cards. This location requires 5 cards of different characters, making it a very slow one to complete. This location requires cards to be placed in ascending order, wrapping around from 5 to 1. As such, if the last card placed was a 4, the next one should be a 5, followed by a 1, and so on. Revelation occurs once you have 5 cards at the location. This card requires the sum total of cards placed there to add up to 11 or more. And at this location, you play a card and then flip a card randomly from the deck. Add up the 3 cards, and if they total 8, 9, or 10, then the exploration is successful and you get the revelation. If they don't add up to 8, 9, or 10, the 2 cards added are discarded and your exploration ends. You're not allowed to use the movement power in connection with this location.
And that's how to play the Incal Infinite. We hope that you enjoyed the video.
We are using a prototype copy of the game, and so the rules and components may not be final, and do check out the project page for the game. We'll put a link to that in the description below.
Thank you so much for watching. Everything you do will help us. Every single view, every time you like our videos, our Instagram, every single comment, and let us know that you're there. And make sure you're doing something fun today. See you next time.